couple years ago, my grandmother passed away. She lived in a rural town where the electricity often went out and water came from wells. I was deeply attached to my grandmother. Her last wish was to see me before she took her final breath. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it in time. This fact weighed heavily on my heart. 2 years later, I found myself back in my hometown. One night, as darkness enveloped the village, the electricity flickered out as usual. My cousins and aunts sat outside, chatting under the moonlight. One of my aunts asked my cousin and me to fetch a lamp from the storeroom adjacent to the kitchen. The rustic charm of our rural home was evident in its old brick walls, some of which were crumbling. With the torch in hand, my cousin and I ventured into the storeroom. As I rummaged around for the lamp, I noticed a shadow on the wall moving behind me. It mimicked the distinct bent posture of my grandmother, who had suffered from a back injury. I assumed it was my cousin playing a prank, so I chuckled and asked her to stop. But the shadow persisted, trailing my every move. Growing frustrated, I called out to my cousin for help with the lamp. However, when I turned around, the room was empty. Confused and a bit unnerved, I stormed outside, convinced my cousin was behind the trick. To my surprise, she was sitting with the others in the yard, far from the storeroom. My cousin said she hadn't been in the storeroom with me at all. Instead, she was fetching matches from the kitchen. The realization hit me like a wave. If the shadow was not my cousin, who or what had I encountered in that storeroom? The following morning, I fell ill with a high fever, prompting a trip to the hospital. To this day, I ponder whether I had truly encountered my grandmother's spirit, or if it was a figment of my imagination, or something else. After 10 years of sharing an apartment with a roommate, I decided to move out and into a second-floor apartment. This new place was once part of a larger home, but had been converted into 2 separate units. The first floor was still a house, while the second floor was turned into an apartment for the owner's daughter. When she moved out after getting married, they decided to rent it out. The layout was simple. A single entrance door led to a flight of stairs. At the top of the stairs, the bathroom door was directly across, the bedroom entrance was to the right, and to the left was a small kitchen leading to a spacious living room. The living room held my interest, especially with its unique half-door storage spaces built into 2 walls. The first week in the new place was peaceful. However, after about a week, I experienced something strange. One night, as I prepared to head to work for my overnight shift at the factory, I found all 6 storage doors wide open in the living room. Perplexed, I closed them, chalking it up to a forgetful moment before bed. That night, while watching a movie after dinner, I decided to take a shower. As I undressed and started the water, I heard a knock at the main door. Quickly pulling on my pants, I headed downstairs, only to find nobody there. Assuming they had left, I returned upstairs to shower, making sure to close the bathroom door behind me as usual. Mid-shower, there came a loud pounding at the bathroom door. Startled, I called out, but received no response. Frozen with fear, I listened, hearing nothing more after a few minutes. I cautiously resumed my shower, only to have the pounding return, stronger than before. So I hurried up and dried off and flung open the door, ready to confront whoever was causing the disturbance. But there was nobody there. I felt watched. I rushed back upstairs, commanding whatever presence was there to leave. However, the strange occurrences persisted. For the 3 years I lived there, the bathroom door would be pounded on whenever it closed, and the storage doors, they would randomly open. The most terrifying incident happened one night as I headed to bed. Just as I approached my bedroom door, it slammed shut in front of me. Unable to shake off the fear, I ended up sleeping on the couch that night. Despite my attempts to cleanse the place and ward off whatever was haunting it, nothing seemed to work. In the early 90s, every Wednesday we would take my grandmother out to eat. She had two favorite places. One of them was a Chinese restaurant that was attached to like a Sam's Club type superstore. The Chinese spot was attached to the front of the store and overlooked the entire parking lot. One Wednesday night we were at the Chinese restaurant, sitting in a booth by the window. I was sitting closest to the window, across from my dad. My parents were talking to my grandmother about who knows what. I was picking at my food, staring out at the empty parking lot. That was when I noticed a man walking up the front sidewalk of the restaurant. He wore what seemed to be a light blue business suit, a fedora hat, and he was holding a briefcase. I was staring at him, but not intently, because I was thinking about something else. It wasn't until he was about 20 feet from us that I noticed something odd. He stopped to look at his wristwatch, and I realized I could see the cars in the parking lot through his body. My first instinct at 10 years old was to find a logical explanation. He must have been inside the restaurant, and I'm seeing his reflection, thus allowing me to see the cars through his body. So I looked to my left, he's not there. I looked to my right, and there he was. I realized I was probably looking at an apparition. I was so excited I was trying to get my dad's attention to point it out. I was barely eking out the word dad. As that happened, I pointed to the apparition, and he looked up at me, began to continue walking towards, but past us, and eventually, he faded into nothing. I was so stunned and excited, I pinched myself because I thought maybe I was dreaming. Fast forward several years. I'm 21 years old at this time, hanging out with my cousins. I don't remember how we got on the subject of ghosts, but I told this story. One of my friends turned white, and he said to me, "Tell me you're just messing with me." I was confused. I was like, "What? What do you mean?" He then told me that when he was a kid, his parents were leaving that same parking lot one night. He was sitting in the back of the car, and his dad reversed out of a parking spot. Just then, his mom, from the passenger seat, began to freak out. She's yelling at his dad to slam on the brakes because there's a man walking behind the car. His dad looks at her like she's crazy and says, "I was looking behind my shoulder the whole time. There's nobody there." My friend's mom described the man as wearing a three-piece suit, a fedora hat, and he was holding a briefcase.